Okay, so this is the last video, the last part in the chapter 2. Okay, so this is still related to the data processing cycle. So the next, this is the third steps in the data processing cycle, which is data processing. So once data about the business activity has been collected and entered into the system, okay, then of course they must be processed. So data processing implies the execution of this certain procedure, okay, that usually involving the series of tasks. So we're going to discuss these 4 different types of file processing, okay, that we refer to as the CRUD. C stand for creating, R stand for reading, okay, and then U stand for updating, okay, and then D stand for deleting. Alright, for creating, okay, this is where they create the new data records, okay, such as adding the new employee to the payroll master file or adding a new records to the database. Okay, we call it as the creating. So when they create a new data record, is considered as a processing. Okay, creating. And then reading. Okay, reading is referred to as you retrieve viewing the existing data. Okay, so you dah create data records just now. Okay, when you want to read that existing data or retrieving, viewing the existing data, we consider also the kind of process that we call considered as the reading. Okay, and then updating data. Okay, updating data is referred to update data previously stored about the activity, the resources affected by the activity, or updating the people who perform the activity. Okay, so if you refer figure 2.4, okay, you can see the example of the account receivable file updated process. Okay, so this is how the AR file, they do the file update process. Okay, they do verify data accuracy, match primary key, and so on. Okay, you refer that figure 2.4. And then the last type of processing is deleting. Okay, deleting data. So this is such as purging the vendor master file of all vendors that the company no longer does business with. So they delete that record. So we consider also the kind of the processing. Okay, in data, in the processing, data processing, we have two approaches. Okay, that we have batch processing with the real-time processing. Okay, batch processing with the online real-time processing. So when you do periodic updating the data, that one we call as the batch processing. Okay, so this approach, it can be combined also with the whether offline or online entry of data. Okay, so the periodic updating of data involve gathering transaction into groups or batches and then processing the entire batch as a single event. For example, in the for the business, when they do they have a sales transaction, so they collect all the transaction in the daily, based on the daily. So at the end of the day, they group all the sales transaction okay, for that day, okay, and then we call it as the group lah ataupun batch. Okay, and then they process all those transaction for that day. Okay, and then as we consider as a one single event. Okay, so itu dikumpul, maknanya satu hari punya sales tu dikumpul sekali and then dia baru proses at the end of the day. So kita they call it as the batch or batch processing. Okay, and then online real-time processing. Okay, so this one, this method of processing, each individual transaction are entered directly into the computer via the terminal as they occur, thus ensuring the store information is always current. So this is where the process data immediately after the data being captured and provide updated information to users on the timely basis. So this is real time lah, maknanya dia capture data, bila dia capture data, data tu terus diproses and then dia boleh terus keluarkan output at the real time. Okay, on the timely basis. Kita panggil online real time processing. Okay, kalau batch tadi dia bukan real time. Macam contoh bagi sales tadi, IDM dah dia barulah diproses. Okay, and then dia punya output tu lambat sikit lah dia tahu. So kalau online real time processing, dia immediate they can update the information and then they can update the users timely at the timely basis. Okay, so if you refer to figure 2.5, okay, so you can see in this figure the combination of these two. So it depends on the company actually. Okay, if they have dia punya type of business tu memang dia perlukan data immediate information, so they need to do the online real time processing. For example lah, katakan in the industry, airline industry, of course they need to have a real time data, real time information. But kalau lah you menjual barang, mungkin tak perlu nak update selalu. Okay, so in that kind of business, maybe it's more appropriate use the batch processing. Alright, because sometimes the online real time processing they need kind of device, okay, and then there may be incurred cost for the company. Okay, so if you refer the figure 2.5, that's the comparison between batch processing, online batch processing and online real time processing. In the middle tu, online batch processing, this is the approach where the company they combine between online dengan batch. Okay, so batch processing just now we already discussed kan. So dia from the source document they group into batches, okay, and then dia masukkan dalam sistem. Periodically they will entered, edited, sorted, stored in the temporary file. Okay, then that temporary file will run against the master file. Okay, so yang atas ni master file. Okay, and then they update the master file and then they print the output. Okay, kalau combination, okay, if combination, the transaction entered into the system as they occur, this is where we call it as the online. Okay, tapi the process is still in batches. Okay, so they stored in the temporary file, then periodically temporary file run against the master file. So this is where they capture real time online, they capture online, but the process of the data still in batches. So they periodically they will run the transaction file against the master file. Then they update the master file and then they print out the output. But for the online real-time processing, so this one is more, as we discussed just now, they entered as they occur, the data, the transaction that entered as they occur, and then immediately di masa dia capture tu, dia terus update the master file. So kalau you refer here, in the online real-time processing, there is no temporary file. Dia tak ada storage in the temporary file sebab dia as they occur dia terus update the master file. So the master file is immediately updated with the data from the transaction and then output is printed or displayed. So this is online real-time processing. So you can see the difference between these three. Okay, so yang tengah ni adalah combination lah, combination antara batch dengan online. Okay. Alright, and then the last one, output. Okay, the last step in the data processing cycle is the output. So output is more related to the documents, reports, query. Okay, so you pernah dengar kan perkataan reports ni semua ni. So output it can be in terms of soft copy or hard copy. Okay, and then the information that presented in these three forms: document, reports, and query. So documents, those are the records of transaction or other company data. okay, such as Chap, the invoices, okay, and then the source document that we discussed just now is part of the document, and then for the dia panggil apa tu, operational document, okay, operational document is part also of the document, okay. So this is the to distinguish between the transaction processing activity with the source document, dia panggil operational document. Alright, okay, and then the other kind of information output is in term of reports, okay, prepared for both internal and external users. For example, financial statement, okay, itu adalah reports lah. So reports, it can be they have to prepare for the many kind of users, whether users, internal users or external users. So internal users is more for the management, okay, and then for external users is for the macam apa, government, okay, for the supplier, okay, so those are report for the external users. And then query. So what is the query? Query actually is more relevant to the when they want to have a question, specific questions to get specific information, especially from the database. Kalau you belajar database, biasanya kita panggil query. So for example, they want to know which division have had the most sales for the month. So that's kind of the query. So they need to give the information output to those questions. So they call it as the query. Okay. So normally when the users they have questions, problems, okay, so they will need to so the the system will need action, okay, to reply to those questions. So the response, okay, to those questions we call it as we use query, okay, query the system. Alright, so those three kinds of the information output. Okay. And then the last is the learning objective number 2. This is related to the enterprise resource planning, or we call it as the ERP system. Okay, so ERP system, okay, this is the actually they design the ERP system to overcome the problem in the traditional accounting information system. Okay, so in the traditional accounting information system, the transaction processing system is only concerned on the financial and accounting transaction. So they tak capture others non-accounting information. Okay, so there is also potential useful non-financial information that needed for the management to make the decisions. So that's why to overcome the problem of the traditional information system tadi, accounting information system, so they design this ERP, enterprise resource planning system. Okay, so the ERP actually they can integrate activities from the entire organisation. So kalau you refer this figure 2.6, this is integrated ERP system. So you can see the integrated ERP is in the middle. Okay, they can integrate with the other business cycle ni. So each of the cycle they have their own information, including financial and also non-financial information. So they integrate in one ERP database. So actually ERP ni macam sort of database jugalah. So they can gather all the activities, okay, in the organisation. So the key features of ERP is the integration of the financial with other non-financial operating data. Okay, and then if they have more sophisticated ERP system, they also using tools to integrate external information, okay, with their internal information. For example, external information related to macam now they use the Facebook for their marketing. So the information from the traffic of the Facebook, the users respond on the Facebook. Okay, so they use also this external information, they gather into the ERP for them to do more analysis part lah, untuk the management for their decision making. Okay, so if you refer figure 2.6 just now, okay, so this is properly configured ERP system. They use centralized database to share the information across business processes and also coordinate the activities. Okay, so when they have well-designed ERP, of course they can provide the management with the easy access to the up-to-date information, okay, about all the activities in the organization. And then of course the management can be well plan, okay, control, evaluate, okay, all those organization business process more effectively. Okay, but of course lah, kalau ERP ni kalau biasanya digunakan oleh company-company yang besar. Okay, and then ERP normally are modular. Okay, modular, with each module they using best business practice to automate the standard business process. So contohnya modules on the financial module, human resource module, revenue cycle, or based on the cycle yang kita dah discuss hari tu. Okay, so based on the module. So this is some of the advantages of having this ERP system. The first one, okay, they can integrate the wide single view, enterprise-wide single view of the organization's data. Okay, because dia simpan kat satu tempat, semua dia boleh nampak lah all data about the business activity in the wide single view, enterprise-wide single view. Okay, so dia nampak the whole thing process in one system. Then data captured once. Okay, so there is no longer need sales to enter data about the customer, then accounting to enter same customer data for invoicing. So this is same concept as we discussed just now related to the database. So the data just only captured once and then they replace and place it in one storage. Okay, so everybody can access to the data. And then greater visibility and monitoring capabilities for the management because they centered in one data place, so they have a more greater visibility and monitoring. Dia boleh monitor hanya satu tempat dan itu give the advantages for the management to monitor the data. Then can improve the access of control of data through the security setting. So since dia ada simpan dekat satu tempat saja, so they can improve the access of control. The access of control is also important sebab dia kena maknanya dia punya control siapa yang boleh access to this database tu is more better compared to kalau dia simpan data in the different places. Okay, and then this is related to the security measures lah. Okay, then also they can standardize the procedure and reports. Okay, compared to kalau dia simpan at the different places. So maybe at different place, different module dia ada different procedure and reports. So bila dia simpan satu tempat, dia boleh standardize semua guna satu procedure saja. And then improve the customer service. Okay, so this is also important for the company, so they can improve in terms of they can quickly access the customer order. Okay, and then they can inform the availability of the inventory immediately to the customer. Okay, and then the shipping information pun mudah untuk diakses. And the last one, they can increase productivity through the automation. Okay, for example, at the manufacturing, okay, they can receive new order in real time. Okay, and then the automation of manufacturing process can lead to the increase of the productivity. Okay, then of course adalah disadvantages dia. First one is costly. Ni memang betul. Okay, ERP system sebab dia satu sistem besar. So normally ERP ni kebanyakannya kalau dekat Malaysia being used by the big companies. Macam contoh Proton, dia guna ERP system. Of course kita tahulah Proton is one of the bigger company juga. Okay, DRB. So kalau you refer your tax, okay, the hardware, software, consulting costs range from the 50 to 500 million. Okay, for the Fortune 500 company. Okay, and then kalau for the mid-size company can spend between 10 to 20 million dollar. So it's very costly. And then also kalau macam contoh I got information from about the Proton tu, dia the maintenance cost also tinggi, okay, to maintain the system. Then significant amount of time to implement. Okay, so normally it will take years to select and fully implement the system. Okay, especially kalau companies tu want to customize, okay, the system to their business activities. Okay, this is related that I mentioned tadi. They need to, kalau if they need to customize or standardize a business process. So this is where kalau the company want to fit the ERP system. So the company itself they need to customize, standardize their business process. So dia kena ikut ERP system unless they want to change the system to fit their business process. So either one lah. But those both are needs the the well plan to manage, okay, the system. And then complexity. Okay, this is where when they need to integrate many different business activities and system. As we know, each activity or each business process they have their process, ada different processes, different business rule, business data elements. Okay, so they need to integrate semua tu. So itu akan involve complexity lah. Then the last one, user resistance. User resistance is where user resist to use that this ERP system. Okay, maybe because of this is the new things to them, they need to learn new things. Okay, kena attend the training. Okay, those are sometimes hard for the employees to accept. Okay, and then sometimes also they need to change their job. Okay, because of the nak customize dengan business process tadi. So it can give the problem for the companies lah to face the resistance from their employees. Okay, alright. So actually that's the end of the this topic. So the importance here, as I mentioned earlier in the early of this topic, is that why it is important for the accountants to understand, okay, this business and industry, as well the management informational needs in addition to the knowing how to generate the financial statements. Alright, so if we relate to the chapter 1 hari tu, okay, so you need to you as accountant, you need to familiarize with the business process, what are those decision making, okay, they want to make, and then based on that key decision, they need to know the information needed. Okay, and then when we relate to this topic also, you not just knowing about the debits and credits, and then you play a role as the accountant to understand the business information. Okay, the business kita kata tadi data processing. Okay, how data being processed, macam mana data tu being captured into the system. Okay, when they stored, how they manage the data, the structure of data being stored. Okay, and then the involvement of the process of data. Okay, and then what are kind of the output from the process. Okay, and also how to incorporate the control for that information. Okay, so this is how you can relate when you kerja nanti, how this knowledge that can help you to help the management, so that you can ensure the management can measure the performance, then you can provide them the insight, the foresight, the oversight to the business. Okay, so you can be as the active member of the business management team later on. Okay, so those are the knowledge that you need to have, okay, when you play as an accountant role in the business. Alright, so the next topic is related to control. Okay, So kita akan start dengan control chapter 8, fraud and errors. So we finish until here. So this is before you nak tahu pasal control tu, you need to understand first how the daripada capture data sampailah keluar information tadi. Okay, so those are the steps that we already discussed in this chapter 1 and also chapter 2 and also chapter 4. Okay, so you kena relate dulu lah dengan chapter 4 tu, is related to the storage relational database. Okay, and then don't forget to watch 2 videos that I mentioned in the slide just now, and also I will give you the link to the videos so that you can understand more about the relational database. So until then, I see you on the next video for the chapter 8, okay, that related to the fraud and errors. Alright, so I see you then. Bye bye. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.